Today's eGlobal Author Salon session, Chapter Outline 101, Drafting AI Summaries, is co-facilitated by myself, Mira Gold, and WordSpinner. As already stated, my name is Mira Gold, and I'm a fiction writer from North America. Cece, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm living the dream, writing for a living in Texas.
When we sure have had some pretty sweltering heats in Texas here lately. So today's writing salon objectives, what you will learn, the essence of outlining, understanding that pivotal role of chapter outlines, and how it helps to maintain the narrative flow and direction of your story. AI assisted chapter structuring. One of the great things about using AI as a resource for you as the writer is how it can help you organize. It can be anything from a way to have a conversation about your story. It can help you look at the structure of what your body of work is evolving into. And it allows you at just a snap of the finger to be able to move content around and to dive deeper into specific elements within your body of work. Again, I can't stress enough how wonderful AI assisted writing actually helps to enhance a writer's experience. You are in the driver's seat. You are the one directing the AI. The AI cannot go anywhere without your direction. One of the things that I do really enjoy is how the AI can help provide that structure that I just talked about. It can help you break down your pilot into smaller, digestible segments, and it helps you bring out some engaging content for your chapters. Drafting AI summaries, harnessing AI to condense the core events, emotions, and character developments of each chapter into summaries. That is something that we're really going to focus on today. You'll also be learning about ensuring that your pilot stays cohesive. Actually, that is a typo. That should be ensuring your plot is cohesive. Using AI analysis to identify potential gaps, inconsistencies, or pacing issues between chapter summaries. Now, your interactive review, when you are done with your outline, you want to make sure that you're looking at every single summary. You want to make sure that chapter one flows into chapter two seamlessly. You don't want to leave anything on the table. You want to make sure that each chapter, the end of chapter one will flow into two, the end of two will flow right into three. And by ensuring that, you are keeping a linear, cohesive timeline. So that's one of the things that we really want to talk about today. I want to go back over this tried and true formula, and it's something that you want to ask yourself through each step of this process. Whether you are drafting a premise or you are working on drafting your extended concept into your synopsis, or even whenever you are working with your characters, you need to make sure that you know when that major event of your concept happens. You need to know what that event is. You need to know who your central character or characters are. And you need to know what that main action or goal is. And because that is such a pivotal part of your story, you need to know what's at stake. So often, one of the things that I see with some of the writers that I speak with, especially if they're new to the industry, they might know what the major event is. They may know who the key players are, and they might even know what that main action is. But one of the things that I notice is missing often is actually the stakes. What are the obstacles? What's at stake if that character does not reach his or her goal? So that's something that you really need to focus on whenever you are building your extended synopsis, which we played with yesterday. And today we are going to further play with that and massage that idea inside of our chapter summaries. I do not have the video up from yesterday, and that will be going up today. And that will go up along with a ChatGPT link that will let you look at how everything was fleshed out during the video, as well as what I did on the back end when we were no longer in the video. So you can see how I flesh it out from beginning to end. Now, if you establish what your premise is at the beginning of your project, you're actually going to have an easier time plotting it and writing your body of work because you're going to know the direction that your concept is moving. Let's go ahead and begin. I'm not going to have a lot of theory today on the PowerPoint, only because we're going to spend a lot of time playing inside of ChatGPT 4 today. Now, why did I choose GPT-4? Because I really like the way that it will go in and dig into my story concept. And for the sake of time today, because it is very time consuming, I am only using one LLM today, but the same type of prompting that I do today in this video, you could do inside of Jasper. You could do this inside of Story Engine. You could do this in Claude. And if you are in the FFA Elizabeth Ann West's program, you could do this inside of their little LLM, Rexy. So again, keep in mind, you can take this same process and you can use it across multiple LLM. So as you can see today, I am here inside of prompt number 4. Now, prompt number 4, we are going to start with step number 5. Now, this step is really important to your process. Now, you could indicate how many beats you want for your chapter summaries. This is one of the things that Cece and I have played with for months and months. And we began to tinker with what does our chapter outline look like and exactly what kind of story elements do we need inside of our chapter outline, specifically within those early summaries. And we discovered that there was some really pertinent information that helps us to flesh out that body of work. One of the things that we found, and we tinkered with this process so much, we began to use maybe 3 primary beats within each summary. And that kind of worked, but when we fleshed out the whole body, we started noticing that there was some vagueness. So then we went back to the process. And when we got to step 5, we thought, you know what? Let's see what it does with 5 primary beats or 6 primary beats in each one of our summaries. And we found that was more of a magic number, at least for us. As you're using these steps, you may find that maybe you like to use 4 primary beats. You might find that 7 or 8 beats work best for your type of writing. Again, play around with these prompts. You are free to make changes to it, add things, extract things. Again, make these prompts your own because that's the only way that they're going to work for you is when you massage it to work for your story. I know that personally, when I'm using these prompts, I change stuff from story to story. There are times when I'll add additional content if I'm writing a thriller. If I'm writing a middle grade, I definitely change elements of my prompts. So again, massage it the way that you need it. Cece, do you have something you might want to add to that? Because I know that this was a process that you really worked hard on when we were in the early planning stages.
I don't think I have anything to add on this part of the process. I'm going to backtrack us just a little bit. When
Mhm.
you mentioned how one chapter should lead to the next chapter, and I agree with that. But sometimes, and this is just a little caveat, when you have multiple POVs and multiple locations, and they'll jump from this chapter, goes to the next chapter, and it's not the same place, it's not in the same person's head, POV, in other words. So just keep that in mind because what Mira mentioned as a rule is a good rule to follow. And it's good to leave it on a cliffhanger, but know that the next chapter might be the resolution or the start of the resolution from the cliffhanger that was 2 chapters ago because you might have several POVs in the book. And I just want you to know about that so you don't panic and wonder how to make that work. That's all. And I hope that made sense.
So, to what Cece was saying, definitely always keep that in mind. Because if you were telling a story from one POV, then the process of saying what is in chapter 1, you want to make sure that when chapter 1 ends, that it flows straight into chapter 2. If you are telling the story from the same character's perspective all the way through the book. But to Cece's point, If you have characters in your body of work and you are splitting that alternating POV, and maybe chapter one is maybe from character A's point of view, and then two is from character B, and then we go back to A, and then we go back to character B on four, then what you would end up having is chapter one at the end might end on a cliffhanger, but you don't pick up that cliffhanger thread again until A in some cases, until you hit chapter three again. It depends on where you're at within your story. If it is a chapter one and I'm showing what my female character is doing, say she's my protagonist, and I'm showing her world right then and there in a snapshot so that my readers are oriented to who she is and what her world looks like today, then when I flow into chapter two, I might take my male character and do the same thing and show what his world looks like today. And then I might end his chapter on some type of a cliffhanger where maybe he's in the military and there's an alien invasion happening. Right there, I could end chapter one from her POV with a cliffhanger. I could end chapter two from his in a cliffhanger. But then chapter three, I pick up her thread and then maybe she encounters, character B in chapter three. And when that happens and my characters have come together, that's when I'm able to change the structure a little bit in order to make sure that anything that I have in chapter three, maybe it will flow straight from the end of chapter three into four. But again, you want to make sure that if you have ongoing threads, that you are paying attention to where one chapter ends with that thread, and then think about what chapter that thread is going to continue. Now, I do see that Ingrid had a comment, and she said, plus, so often in mystery or thriller books, the author may have the huge inciting incident happen in chapter one, and then it may have happened way into the past. And then in chapter two, it picks up that action in present day. And yes, so pay attention to the linear time frame of your body of work and how does that chronological event of items happen? Are you going from the past to the present or the present to the past? And all of that's important when you are thinking about how you're structuring your body of work in your chapters. You need to make sure that you understand that timeline or how that flow is going to work. Were there any other questions on that before we go further into this prompt?
Nothing in chat. Let's rock and roll.
Okay. So I'm just going to touch upon a few key areas in here because we're going to talk about every single aspect of this as we're moving through. You'll notice that this is a fairly long prompt. One of the things that I do want to point out is that do you notice how it says write an XX chapter outline with XX story beats in each chapter summary? The reason why I have XX here is because you need to make sure that you're telling the AI how many chapters. And if you want 9 chapters, if you want 15, 20, 25, then do that. If you're not sure how many chapters your body of work should be, then I suggest you have a conversation with whatever LLM you are in before you actually use this prompt. And we're going to do that today because I'm going to show you how you can ask ChatGPT or any LLM how many chapters are typically in a story like this. How many character POVs are generally in a story like this? And that's one of the things that I find is really beneficial. When I write thrillers, I tend to have about 30, 35 chapters when I'm writing thrillers, and I tend to have really long beats in those. But if I'm writing, say, a monster romance that is maybe an hour and a half read, I tend to want to keep my chapter length to either 9 chapters or 15. If I'm writing, say, a dark mafia romance, I might want to keep my chapter count to maybe 15 chapters if I'm writing a short novella length. And I might even go into 25 chapters if I want to have a longer body of work that's, say, closer to that 55,000 word mark. So think about how many chapters your body of work needs to be. So I'm not going to change any of the X's in here right now, but this is an area that you will need to change in the prompt. What I'm highlighting here with the XX story beats is another area. If you scroll and look down, you're going to find areas that say, our story is an XX chapter, and it says name the genre. You're going to want to say, our story is, and then state that it's a 25 chapter urban fantasy story. You want to put that in there because you're alerting the AI that, hey, this is what it is. This is where we're still going. This is the direction. Now, if you have everything already written and you have done all of this manually up to this point, and all you need to do is generate your chapter summaries, then you could start here, but you will have to provide the LLM with all of your content.
You have a question from Nina. Uh,
Okay.
when working with LLM, though, sometimes would it make sense to double the chapter number if you're writing scene sequel chapters, even if some of them may really be scenes versus chapters?
So that's going to be very personal to each person's body of work. Now, when I am working on my chapters, there are times when I will only alternate. Chapter one might be in my protagonist, chapter three might be in a love interest, chapter two. So I might have one from my protagonist, two might be from an antagonist, three might be from the love interest. And then I just start looking at my chapters in that thriller to see which character has the most to lose or most at stake inside of that chapter. And that's my POV character. And I do change from genre to genre. I have some contemporary bodies of work that I might alternate between scenes. So, chapter one, I might have 26 beats in that chapter that I need to run, but I might actually take those 26 beats and I might assign maybe 10 to character A. I might assign 5 or 6 to character B, and then the rest of those might be assigned to character C. And I might even use maybe first person for my protagonist, and then I might use a third person POV limited from all the other characters, but I will use a scene break in between. Does that help to answer that? If I didn't answer that question, let me know. Oh, okay. Yes, so you can definitely do that. You would use your scene breaks. Now, one of the things that I did to help the LLM understand that, if I'm going to use multiple scene breaks and I'm breaking it up between POVs, I found that if I'm going to have three POVs in the same chapter because there are three different scenes happening in there, I will have chapter one and then I will label that I have chapter 1A, chapter 1B, and chapter 1C. And actually, I do find that the LLMs do understand that. The most that I had it do within a whole body of work that I think it was 25 or 30 chapters. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I actually had each chapter produce 5 different scene breaks from 5 different characters. So chapter one had 5, chapter two had 5, and it did pinpoint those. And then I was able to have it run specific beats for each one of those sub chapters. Now that is a completely different template that I have for that. So, Nina, if you're interested in that, let me know and I can go ahead and send you something on that as well. I can share that template on the YouTube comment section. Cece, would you help me by keeping a note of that so I don't forget? Because
You
I'll
bet.
shiny thing and then out of sight, out of mind. So our story is going to be 25 chapters and it's going to be an urban fantasy. One of the other things that you want to do is make sure you're coming down, and if you want more than 5 beats or less than 5 primary beats, then you would change that here within your template. The other area that you're going to pay attention to is down here at the bottom. You don't have to change anything here where it says chapter X underneath use the format below. You can leave it as chapter X because the LLM will know to fill in chapter one, chapter two, chapter three. But what you will need to indicate is how many chapters, how many numbered beats you want within each one of those chapters. So if you state 5, then you need to make sure that you're putting 5 right here. And you'll notice that we have added that we want a day and time. We want it to be in this format. And we gave the LLM an example. Now, why do we ask it for time? We ask it for time because we noticed that when we did not ask for it, we had time all over the place. It could be daytime, and then all of a sudden, the next stride or the next beat segment, it would go from daytime to night. And then all of a sudden, they were eating breakfast again. So we needed to give the LLM something cohesive to latch onto. And this is one area where Cece and I were playing around with it, and we were saying, okay, we need it to specify what day it is. Is it daytime, nighttime? This works great. I did a manuscript where I actually wanted the whole story to take place over 3 days. It was 30 chapters. So day one was nothing but day one with times. And it allowed me to indicate how the story was flowing across the first 10 chapters on that one single day. The next set of 10 was day 2, and again, I was able to break it down by time so that I could indicate where my character was at a specific time and what was going on. We found this really helpful to keep the AI on track. The other thing that Cece found out when she was playing around with it, if you're familiar with AI, you know that the sun is always dipping or shining through windows. So this kind of helped us to pare that down, and it enabled us to say, you know what? Maybe it's nighttime. Maybe it's midday. We got tired of seeing the sun and the moon. So this kind of helped us to push the LLM in a different direction. Now, do we still get the sun dipping or coming up over the horizon? Yes. And as writers, like Cece always says, we're writers. So that's nothing for us to go in there and edit that content out. We also have a character list. We want to know what characters are inside of our summary. Why is that important? It's important because those are the main players in that chapter. We need to know who they are. If we don't know who they are and the LLM doesn't know who they are, then that's where you get some surprise characters. So we want our LLM to only pull characters from our list. The only time that an LLM should be pulling characters from the list is if it is a just, cameo character who is just coming on and the LLM brings the character on and maybe there's a battle scene and a character comes on and is killed in the battle scene. We really don't need that person on the list. We just need key players on our character list. So we want any of our key players who are coming into the chapter, we need those listed. Now, you don't have to fill that out. We're going to have the LLM do this. Cece, any thoughts?
I think you pegged it.
Okay. I know you worked really hard on the sections on this.
It's sitting at a computer. It's not washing dishes or anything like that. So, yeah, it's not that hard. Say Ingrid has a question. How are you going to have the LLM do it? Fill out the character list she wants to know.
So remember when we were already in the ChatGPT thread yesterday? We're going back in there today. And remember how we played with all of our chapters and all of our characters, and we asked the LLM to please give us a backstory of our characters. I actually went a step further and I went in to look at all of the backstories. I asked the LLM to tell me who each of the characters were, what their backstory was. Now, yes, Nina, there are times when GPT-4 or any LLM will lose track. So that's why you have to consistently ask the AI, provide me with an extended character list. And I do prompt it to add the newest content with the existing. Does it always do it? No. There are times when it will forget elements that I have asked it to add. And that's where me as a writer, I have to make sure that I understand my story. If I don't understand it, then how can I expect the AI? The AI is only a tool. Consider the AI an advanced typewriter. If you don't tell it what to organize, it is going nowhere because it is missing steps. That is up to me as a writer to make sure that I am telling it to recall that information. I'm going to tell it to give me an updated character list with my main characters, supporting, and any side slash extra. Now, one of the things that I noticed when I was in GPT-4 yesterday is that it kept forgetting my antagonist. So we're going to see if it gives me that information. And yes, I am back inside of the same one that I was playing with yesterday. And I don't know if you can see the little scroll bar over here on the side, but you can see how tiny that is. It's because I've had this very lengthy conversation with the AI. I've talked about everything from what one of my side characters' roles, what my side characters' roles. I have asked it to provide me with, let's go back up to the question. I've asked it to please flesh out these items. What are the specific magical laws that prevent my protagonist and my love interest from having that relationship or that union? I have drilled down into very detailed structures to find out those lines within my story. And I carried on that conversation for several hours because I needed to understand the world that I am going to be writing in. So I'm going to ask for the new character list. Now, is my new character list going to have everything in there that we discussed? No, because it's only going to give me the information that the LLM thinks that I need. Now, do I need more information than what it gives me sometimes? Yes, I will need more information at times. Now, this is just my main character list. It's not going to show me all aspects of my character. Now, it is showing me the background and personality and powers for character 3, but it's not doing it for the other characters. So if I want that information, I would then prompt the AI one more time. So one of the things that I'm noticing immediately is that I have Cleo here, but what happened to the antagonist named Voss? Again, for some reason, the LLM keeps forgetting one of the main and now it has put that main antagonist down here under supporting characters. In the beginning, it was showing that Voss was my main antagonist, but now all of a sudden I have Cleo up here. So I need to find out exactly who the LLM now thinks is my main person.
And Ingrid wants to know, would you want to repeat Voss's name?
I'm not sure what you're asking for in that way. Can
Yeah, I
you
wasn't either. Yeah, please, because I was lost. Oh, she says to give more heft. I don't, I'm still confused.
You know how Elizabeth talks about either putting it in all caps or she talked about trying to give something more weight. And you could physically take that copy and move it up in the top. I mean, up next to the main character's name, right? To give it, change it and give it heft? Or in other words, can you manipulate and change the AI's mind? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yes, you can. And now I do want to find out why. And I'm not surprised by this because I spent a lot of time looking at character 3, 4, and 5 yesterday. And those were three of the characters that I worked on toward the end of my transaction or my communication with chat. So that doesn't surprise me because my information on Voss, that was something that I did earlier in the conversation. Right now, I would say with how small my little sidebar is, I probably have a good 60, 60 to 70 pages worth of conversation going back and forth, which means that the LLM will really only retain about 50 pages. It has gotten better about being able to go and pull information, but it does help if you continue to keep asking it questions. That's why I'll keep saying, give me a character list. Why is this character not on here? Give me my setting list. Why is this setting not here? I will keep reminding it as I go. So I'm asking it to please identify why Voss, who was a main character, was one of the main characters listed in the main character section earlier. And of course, I'm saying as the antagonist is now in the supporting characters instead of the main character list. And I need to know this because I need that person moved back up. Because if the LLM is changing something and I'm not aware of it, then I need to know why the AI is taking those liberties. So here it shows me, yes, that it was an oversight. It is correcting that now. And if you notice, it's given me even a smaller chunk of my main characters. And I'm okay with this small chunk right now because I am not writing, but I need it to keep a solid list. And I'm wondering if the LLM forgot my character's name. So we're going to ask, what is Voss's first name?
Refresh my memory. It seems like we didn't have an antagonist. That was something we noticed later on in the class yesterday. And then we had to ask it to bring it in, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, if it's just not as ingrained in it as it should be. Plus, you did all the other ones. And you know how the recency bias works with the, that's something that I think it was Ingrid that brought it up. Oh, and Nina actually mentioned something. She said she's tried to use a script. Is it okay if I
Yeah.
pose this question right now?
Yeah.
Okay, she says she's tried to use a script, Professor Synapse, that tells GPT-4 to pull in specific expertise that she found outlined.
Yeah.
Outlines? I'm sorry. There's something blocking my view of this part of the
Okay.
chat. But anyway, but GPT forgets it's the professor as well, so it's not helping much to focus GPT. Is that right, Nina?
Yeah, I put the link to the information on OpenAI where I got the instructions.
Mhm.
And the concept behind it is that it focused GPT on only pulling in specific expertise. So then maybe it can have a better ability to retain, I thought, hopefully, more information that you're feeding it related to what you're asking from it. But it keeps falling out of that and going back to GPT-4. So I'm not sure how much it actually helped me get it to focus on things differently than it would have otherwise as GPT-4, or remember anything more than it would have otherwise if it was GPT-4 alone.
Right.
Something to play with.
So I played inside of Code Interpreter before they made changes to it, and that did okay. But yes, one of the reasons why, like with Elizabeth Ann West with Rexy, they are actually you're able to use Notion to store information, and you can tell the LLM, hey, before you move, now that you have stored all this information in the S1 file, when you go into work on the S2 and give it the prompt, you're going to tell your prompting within S1, within S2 to go and make sure that it's using all the information in S1. When that finally generates, and then you go to the next step, you can then tell the LLM, hey, we're now on the S3 step. We're going to use this prompt and you're going to pull information on XYZ from S1, and you're going to pull information from this section from S2. So they are working on ways to ensure that everything's going to link that way. And they also have a process that they're working on right now that they're calling banging, which allows the LLM to loop back to those specific pages while you're writing items in that process. I am going to be playing with that in a video on the 20th, which I am springing on Cece because I just told her very little about it the other day, but we will be doing that on Friday the 20th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we will be playing with that methodology just to make sure that we understand that flow and how we can continue to use that information. Did that answer that question?
Yeah, it's mostly just sharing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it does that. And if you're creating templates and they are helping you, then by all means, if it works in one area of your story, then think about how you can use it in your world building area, how you can build a specific template for every single chapter and have the LLM go back. And it's like giving it a refresher, which I think is a cool way to do it. And Jacob Perry said, chat has been having a few bad days. Oh, yeah. I don't think it's just a few bad. I think it's had some horrific times the past couple of days. Sometimes it will behave. Sometimes I have had it have complete network errors and then I've had to refresh. So, what you've noticed here is that I did not like what the LLM gave me. I did not like what ChatGPT 4 gave me. And remember, it was forgetting what Voss's name was. So, what did I do? I went back way toward the very beginning of where I started that conversation with Chat, and I just grabbed all of her information. And not only did I grab hers, I grabbed my main character list and notice it only had two characters on my main character list at first. Everybody else was in the minor characters, and it completely forgot to give me an antagonist, as Cece was saying earlier, in the very beginning. So I am going to refresh the LLM's memory on who all the characters are. I want it to know that, hey, you need to refresh this information. Sorry for the scroll. So again, it's saying the apology for the oversight. Thank you for clarifying. So now it's giving me this information and it is touching upon Voss because that is the person who it kept forgetting. Now, I did refresh its memory with all the other characters. To your point, Ingrid, because the age is a guarded secret, that is a red flag to me. Because while it might sound cool, ooh, there's a secret here. I wonder what it is. Let me see what the AI says. Don't trust the AI because, as we already saw, the AI really can't think for itself. All that it's doing is using a predictive index to be able to move things forward.
Ingrid is asking if you didn't put that in there, if the AI put that in there.
The AI just put that in there. I did not put that in there. So I want to know why it's a guarded secret, who is guarding it, and why.
And here's why you need to learn these things. Excuse me. When you're working in this part of your process is because when you take it to somewhere else that maybe say you take it to pseudo write or story engine, if you don't have that lined out and you let story engine decide what that secret is, it could completely derail your plot. That's why I spend so much time in this part of the process is because you got to know what it is doing, what it's thinking, why it's thinking it. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with a fiasco. And guess who has to fix that fiasco? You.
Yeah, so I'm telling it, I want to know why it's a guarded secret, who is guarding it, why, what impact does it have in the story across all of the main Snyder beat sheet story elements. I need to know what the secret is, show me in a creative way. And I do this because I need to know, like what Cece said, we need to know what this is. Now, is it going to give me something tangible or is it going to give me something vague again? If it gives me something vague, then that means doesn't mean that the AI is not doing its job. If it gives me something vague, then it means that I need to give the AI more details. And remember, it might toss some cool things in there, but as a writer, I'm the one who has to finish fleshing stuff out. Nina, that's actually funny.
If you figure it's been trained on all of what it's been trained on, right? It's going to have certain tropes in its bias based off of prior writing and perceptions. So I found that when I was trying to deal with not having such gender norm descriptions of personality traits and stuff like that. And it made sense. All the books are written that older women are, I don't know, the way they speak.
So most definitely. And it's interesting that you really have to drill down because the AI can give you some really cool information, but it can also give you some really vague content. So, one of the things that I asked is she ageless because it says that she's old. So, I need to understand this. Okay, so this is why age isn't an issue with her. And I wouldn't have known that there was a forbidden ritual that was conducted. Now, this gave me a lot more information, and now I have a direction that I can go. Will the AI remember this when we are fleshing out those chapter summaries, or will it remember it whenever we are fleshing out the story beats? Probably not. At some point, it's probably going to forget some of this cool information. And then it'll be my job as a writer to say, hey, take this information about her forbidden ritual that was done in the past that made her ageless, and I need this wrapped into my story beats. So I have to keep prompting the AI to do this. And yes, Nina, often I will inquire. There are times when I direct the AI, but if I want the AI to have a little bit of a creative rein, if I want to give it a little bit of a leash to more or less hang itself, I will give it some direction along with an inquiry. And if you look up here, see how I said, so is she ageless? And I did that because I didn't want to tell the AI that she's ageless. I wanted to know why her age isn't an issue. Is she an immortal? Therefore, age isn't an impact. So I'm questioning the AI. I'm asking, and sometimes it will give you just off the wall information, or sometimes it'll give you multiple choices that you can pick from. I do like that there's a forbidden ritual. Now, that ritual could have a larger impact within the body of work. So now I need to know, is this forbidden ritual driving her behavior? Has it made her who she is today? Remember, we're looking at backstories and we need to understand our antagonist just like we need to understand our central character, our protagonist, and the love interest. We need to know that driving force because you don't have a bad guy just because it's a bad guy. We need to know why. What's at stake? What does this person want and why? And those are all things that help make your story well rounded. Cece, any comments that you want to touch upon when it comes to looking at how to incorporate some of this? Or how do you do it when you are working with information that you know that the LLM might forget later? What kind of steps do you take to help ensure that you can bring that information back up when you need it?
I always, like you did, I ask the question to have it highlight, like, what is it thinking? Why is it thinking that? Now, I could direct it, but I'd rather hear what it has to say first because you never know, that might be more interesting than what I would have come up with. So then I do exactly what you did. In terms of reminding it to do anything, I don't necessarily, I haven't encountered that issue thus far. But I also don't always trust these LLMs or computers or software in general. So what I do is I copy everything out of here and put it in Microsoft Word. I think we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
And I use the headers to show me to indicate what's where. And this is here, I'll share a little something of what it might look like. So this is the top half of my header. And then this here is a back half of my header. So you can see all the things that the LLM has given me. I put it in there. I put it in Microsoft Word and I'll have it. I have everything from the settings, the characters, including male and female tribe members. And then I have the outline, which the synopsis with the book outline, and then each chapter and which POV it's in. That's what I do. And I think you do something very similar, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know if it showed it, if I'm not sure I actually copied and pasted that in there, but I also have taglines, log lines, blurb, first person blurb, third person blurb, just because I like to test the way that things are going to work. And why not create it now in case I decide to switch my blurb up? Like, here's an example of, I think this should have tagline, logline, back cover copy, blurb, first person back cover. And of course, back cover copy can be similar to your Amazon description. It depends. But I pretty much do what you do, but I don't leave it all. It stays housed in here, but sometimes you lose it. And then we only have ourselves to blame when the internet or a program loses our information, because it's within our control to immediately transfer it to a document where at least we control it. We have access to it. That's all I got.
So I do ask questions and I probe the AI. I don't tell it, oh yeah, so she needs a human to take her place, and that's why she's focused on Laura. I don't direct the AI that way because I want to know creatively what the AI could do with this little bit of running information. So that's why I always pose my questions, such as, does she need a human to take her place? Is this why she's focused on Laura? Or is or is Voss only jealous of Laura? So I'm planting these little bugs of little information or crumbs inside of the LLM, and I'm asking these questions. And by doing that, it's helping me to flesh out my story. Now, see how I just incorporated that? So her forbidden ritual, I knew nothing about a forbidden ritual. I did not know anything about that yesterday. I found out about it today, and that gives me yet another layer to add to my story. You need multiple layers. Think of your whole story as a great big giant onion bloom. And every time, a scene takes place, we should be peeling back another layer of our story, and eventually we will get to the heart of that bloom. And that's what you want to do with your story. It should have multiple layers, and all of your characters' motives, what drives them forward, what they want, the obstacles that they encounter, all of that is part are little bitty sections of that blooming onion. And you need to make sure that each piece is flowing and is opening up as the story moves forward. Same thing with your characters. And I like to use an onion because, as everybody knows, as you peel back each segment of the onion, you find a new layer. Your characters should have layers like that too. Cece made a comment yesterday about making sure that you are not taking all of this backstory information, because it's cool details. It really is cool details. But this is information that the reader doesn't need to know right now. As a writer, I 100% need to know this information, but I don't need to go in and dump all this information in the first chapter to say, hey, y'all need to know this because this is stuff that's going to be in the book and you need to understand this. I don't do that. And writers should not do that. What they should do is take this information, and when they are in a chapter, think about what your chapter is about and how impactful maybe some of this information might be to be sprinkled in there. You want to show. So you want to show that action unfolding and how that human replacement motive comes into play. It may not even come into play until further in, but we need to make sure that somewhere in the back of Voss's head, that is a driving force for her. Our readers don't need to know that. They just need to know that she is after Laura. And maybe we're using the jealousy motive to make that really clear and make the reader think, oh, wow, she's really jealous. She just wants to take her out. Then, as the layers come out or peeled back, we soon learn that not only is she jealous of her, and she's jealous because Laura has freedom and she does not, but she's also jealous because she likes the love interest. And then she also needs a human to take her place. Now, one of the things that I need to understand is so we have a unique nature here, is Laura's link. And I need to know more about what that link is.
So while that's generating, we'll talk a little bit more about backstory and info dumping. So if you took all that info, that backstory, and you dropped it in the very beginning, first of all, they don't know your characters. So you've got all this information about people, characters that they're not familiar with, that they're not invested in. And by the time they get invested in it, the reader's going to remember, oh, there was something about that character. And if you make them turn back to find that, you might lose that reader. So that's why we say sprinkle it in, and especially sprinkle it in after they become invested in the characters and after they can tell the characters apart. And I don't know if you know what I mean when I say that, but I've encountered books where they put so many characters up front, they stack them, and so much information about them that I can't tell them apart. I can't retain all that at once. So that's, I guess, what I'm trying to say is let them know who that person is, and then later on, give us some of that backstory.
So again, I have asked that question here about Laura. I want to know, what is Laura's link? Now, I already fleshed this link out earlier, and it's letting me know what, unknown to Laura, her mother's side of the family. There's a link there, and the magical line that's there will enable her to be trapped because of that ritual. If Voss goes in, performs another ritual, then she could ensnare Laura to take her place, and then Voss would be free to wreak havoc. I want to know more information. When I asked, it gave me more information about the heritage. It rated that. It's telling me more about the locket's influence. And I know that it's an heirloom. I know that it's a conduit. I know that it has been over multiple generations, and it has been absorbing traces of magical essence from both realms. So it protects her in a way, but then it can also be her doom if she's not careful. So I want to know more information about that. So I am going to ask it how it comes into play further. Now, one of the things that I really spent a lot of time on yesterday was this unique flower, the midnight bloom. That just came out of nowhere, like the secret yesterday when I was playing in here. And the flower only blooms when both realms are visible, and then out of nowhere, when this flower blooms, there is a third realm that opens that is a shadow realm. And if not careful, the shadow realm could actually consume the two other realms. So I thought that was cool. And the only time that can open up is when there's a bloom, and the only person that can help to bridge that and keep the darkness of the shadow at bay is going to be Laura and her little band of people. So I like that twist, and I had the AI really scrub deeper into that. But again, that was something that just came up, just like her age. Her age is a secret. I didn't know why it was a secret, so I had to have this conversation. If I had left it that ambiguous, the AI might have come up with something cool, but more than likely it would have been so vague, and the prose would have read something like, her age is ageless because it's a secret that's well guarded that nobody can know about, but it's a secret. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't tell anybody anything. And that's why you have to flesh it out here. You have to know these details. Is this helping to see this process? So now that I have gone in and got a little bit more information about my characters, I'm going to ask for that character list again. So now I have more information about the hidden map within the picture of the locket. The forest image actually has a map inside of it. Eventually, whenever I start going in to actually flesh those out more into story beats, I'm going to play with that a lot more because I really like that idea. She doesn't realize that the forest is a map, and it's going to be something that's going to help her later. So now I want another character list, and let's see if it pays attention. And I like how it keeps changing the name of my story. Now, notice how I asked it for the character list again, and now it has given me a little bit more information about it. Whereas I ended up with like a single sentence in some areas. It gave me very slim information about Laura, and it gave me very little information about the love interest. And it gave me limited or no information about character three, Voss, in the beginning. And now I have that information. Now, notice how it doesn't have everything about her. It just has some key points, things for me as a writer to say, okay, this is what or who she is at a quick glance. And I'm okay with that because if I put all those details inside of a character card, like say in Story Engine, I wouldn't have enough room. But for something condensed like this, I would. And I want something condensed because if I have something with a lot of detail in there, then every single chapter that's generated with those characters, it's always going to have that character. Maybe Gwen, maybe it's always showing every chapter with Gwen and Laura. It's going to show Laura harnessing her newfound magical abilities every single chapter that Gwen is in. I need to be careful of that because I know that the AI is going to latch on to this and the AI will silo some of the chapters or information. So it's up to me as a writer to make sure that I'm changing content so that I can better guide the actual AI in that story creation. So you only want to give the AI what it needs. And that's why your summary is so important because you need to layer some information in there. So it has been a little bit since I went in here and I've copied a few things. So I'm going to go back into my storage holding and I'm going to copy that prompt again. So I am copying that prompt and now I'm going to go back into my chat and I'm going to use my prompt. Now, again, I'm going to tell it that I want what do we want, CC? 25 chapters on this? You know what? Before we do this, I said that we were going to play with something. We're going to ask it how many chapters it recommends.
That's right. You did say that. And while you're doing that, I'll mention I tend to write in scenes. So don't be afraid to give it, if you're this kind of writer, don't be afraid to give it many chapters because you're going to treat them as scenes if that's how you write. Afterward, I take them and the scenes, and then I might make it into 1, 2, or 3 chapters or leave it as is.
Sorry for the silence, guys. So in addition to wanting to know how many chapters are most UF fantasy ROMs written in, I also want to know what's typical. I want to know what POV this should be, whether it should be in first or should it be in third limited? Should it be in present or past tense? And the other thing that I like to ask it is, should I alternate POV? And if so, between which characters? So, what are some other things that I can ask in here? So, I'm already asking it how many chapters, what's typical, what should the POV be? Should it be first or third limited? Should it be in the present or past tense? Should I alternate POVs? If so, between which characters, such as the protagonist and the love interest? What other questions would you want to know before you start writing? One of the other things that you might ask it is, well, let's see what it says. Remember, you can ask it anything. So it's letting me know that chapter count, typically that the novels under urban fantasy falls under 80 to 100,000 words. Now, if I want something shorter, I can definitely do that. I could write a novella if I wanted to. Again, this is just information that you can look at as a guide. It is telling me that that the usual chapter lengths are between 2 and 4,000 words. It's letting me know about the point of view. It's letting me know first person is a popular choice for UF because it emerges the reader into the character's perspective. Third limited is also commonly used. They're saying that if you're switching in between characters. Now, one of the things that you can do is ask that if I want to write in first person, would it be odd to write alternating POVs that change with each chapter? And then I'll give it an example. I would say protag taking odd chapters and the love interest taking the even chapters. So again, you can ask it questions and see what it gives you. Here's the mixing. It's telling you that it can be jarry. Now, does that mean that you can't do it? I would say do it at your own risk. But if you do it, make sure that you're consistent. I know that James Patterson has the Murder Club, Those books, you can see some first person from the pro tag, and then some of the other characters are written inside of third person limited. And you'll find that common with some thrillers will do that quite a bit. So look at my question where I said, if I want to write first person, would it be odd to write alternating POVs that change each chapter? So Angie, how did you find that read of that fantasy reverse harem that mixed first and third? You said it was odd. Did you have a hard time getting into the story? Interesting. Have you read a thriller set in that specific manner? I don't mind the thrillers that Patterson has done. I don't mind reading them that way, but I like to Angie's point, I have actually read some other genres, and I don't know, it feels a little clunky to me at times, but it may just be the delivery. I don't know. I've not read a mixed one that I have felt comfortable with in any other genre outside of thrillers, but I have only read a tip of the iceberg of what's out in the market today. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Cece.
Oh, you're fine. I'm sorry. I was going to ask Angie, was the girl the first person and all the males the third person? Yeah, I think I read the same one, unless there's several of them that are that way.
Now, do we want 5 or do we want 6 primary beats, Cece? What do you think?
6.
Wanna do 6? Now, one of the tricks here, say you want to write something that's only about 24,000 words, and you want to write these really short bodies and they move real fast. You could potentially come in here, get to this point, and then you could take this step number 5 prompt and you could say, write a 9 chapter monster romance with, and you could put down 10 story beats in each chapter summary. And then you could actually go from this step straight into generating your prose with those beats. And you'd end up across say 9 to 10 chapters of 10 beats each. You would hit around 22 to 26,000 words, depending on how many words the AI generated for you. And I only know that because I've generated a few of them at that length. And I've done that in Claude, ChatGPT 4, and Cece and I were playing with that along with Nicole. We were all playing with that type of chapter, like 9 chapters with the 10 beats each inside of Pseudo Write Story Engine as well. So again, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to write that this is a 25 chapter and make sure that you're naming the genre. I like to constantly remind the LLM what I'm writing. Again, remember I told you that there were key areas that you needed to make sure that you were going in and altering in here. This is one of them, the 25 chapters. I'm going to scroll down and here's another one. I changed it from 5 to 6. I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom and I'm going to locate right here under where it says use the format below. It says chapter X. I can leave the X right there under the chapter, but I do need to state that I want 6 beats per chapter and I want it to list the chapter POV character. Now, here I could tell it, I could remind it that the pro tag has the odd chapters. And then I could tell it that the love interest has all of the even. Now, do I have to tell it that? I don't really have to because I've already told it that multiple times, but I do find sometimes it helps to just beat the LLM over the head with and sometimes. And here's our day and time. We have our character list. Now, why did I change my character list from originally, if you've seen any of CC's of my videos, you'll notice that we used to number this 1, 2, 3, because there are some people who use pseudo write story engine. And with the changes that they've made in their system, we've gone ahead and gone to using ABC because if you number this 1, 2, 3 with your characters or even your settings, number them 1, 2, 3, that could hinder the way that system's LLM reads that, and it may think that number one in your list is where all of your beats start. So I do recommend, if you are using pseudo-write story engine, that anything that is numbered that you want to create your chapter outline and your story beats, you want to make sure that you're only using an ABC list rather than a one, two, three, so that it doesn't confuse the LLM. So let's go ahead and see what this does. Remember, I reminded it who my characters were. I gave it some additional information about what was happening. I brought back up some key elements. And now let's see what it gives us. So we know that chapter one opens on a Monday at 10 a.m. We know who our key players are. We have Laura, Clea, and we have Anna. We know that the tone is mysterious. It's a paste, weird with the commas that they put in there. It is reflective, curious. It's tentative for the character's voice. We know that this is what my summary is right here underneath beats. It started with a hook and it ends with a hook. I want to know what's happening there. So Laura discovers the locket left behind by her mother at her old apartment. That right there shows action. It doesn't have Laura walking around reminiscing about her mother, because if she's reminiscing, then the AI does not know what she's reminiscing about. It could be about the A that she got on her report card in math when she was in fifth grade. It could be when she fell down and skinned her knee. It could be when she snuck out of her bedroom window. It could be any number of things. But unless the AI knows what it is, we would be gambling. That would be a vague beat. But in this case, the LLM gave us a specific action. So the LLM can show her discovering the locket. That is a physical action. It's an introduction to Cleo, discussing their plans for the day. What are their plans for the day? That is really vague. This has given me, let's see, two of my summaries. I need to flesh this out. Number two is too vague. What are their plans? Are there plans to take over the world? Are there plans to go out and pick up trash in the park? Are they planning a girls' day, a movie? What are they doing? I don't know what they're planning. Neither does the AI. Do not leave that to the AI, because that could cause even more vague information to end up inside of your story beats. Be specific. You need to know what kind of plan it is. So let's ask the AI. Now, I am going to give it some ideas. Are they talking about maybe seeing a movie? Are they planning to run a marathon? Let's see. Are they planning a day at the park? So again, I'm going to give the AI a few different things because I want to know. And I am actually leading the AI. And sometimes I will lead it with the different things that I'm asking in multiple directions. And yes, Nina, to your point, I can lead the AI, and I lead it gently because I don't want to be overbearing and tell it this is what it is. I want to know what the AI can come up with, but I am giving it suggestions. So I want it to be creative. And I'm going to tackle each one of these one at a time because I need to know what is happening. Now, right here, she expresses a strange connection to Central Park. Okay, what kind of connection? So, again, I'm going to lead it a little bit. So, what kind of a strange connection is there? That we need to know that. Why is she drawn there? And if she's drawn there, how often does she go there? Let's see what it says. If I left those number two and three like that, I would have been doing my story a disservice because I'm not fleshing it out. And that is my job as a writer. So, number four, Anna Martinez introduces herself, sensing something unusual about Laura. You know what? We are not supposed to be inside of Anna's head. You know what? Anna can't sense anything. And if you have characters sensing something unusual, it had better be your central character whose head you're in doing all the sensing. Do not leave a beat that says that another character is sensing something, because if you're in first person, only your central character can sense something. Now, Anna can verbalize something, and that verbalize clue in our central character, but Laura can't know exactly what it is that Anna is sensing unless the woman says something. So I'm going to state in chapter 1, beat 3, Anna can't sense anything unusual that the reader knows about, because we're only inside of Laura's head. How can Anna show this to Laura? Also, is this done at the park? If not, where? Give me details. Anything else that you can think of to add here?
I didn't think of anything, but Nina said this is where you know where the story leads and ends up with. You could use them as suggestions. Yes.
Yeah, so I am directing my chapter right now, and I know that there are elements here that I am interweaving from my actual story synopsis. So I am beginning to weave things here. I know from my synopsis that she feels that draw to Central Park. And we are beginning to weave that information in there. So, yes, I could use some of the suggestions to move my story. So, I am leading the LLM to build the story, but I don't like to tell it exactly what it is. I like to gently lead it to the direction that I want to go, because then it allows it to keep that creativity. So, this right here, number 5, Laura's locket mysteriously heats up as she approaches a specific alley in the park. Is there really an alley in the park? I'm not sure there's an alley in the park, but I do know that I like the thought of it heating up, and that is one of the elements that we know happens. So I am going to also ask here. I have to wait until it's finished, though. So let's look at number 6. Laura's drawn into a fog covered alleyway. Okay, again, I need to know more about that. And something went wrong. So let's regenerate. So I am asking it in chapter 1, beat 5, are there really alleyways in Central Park? I wanted to explain this. Also in beat 6, there's talk about a fog covered alleyway. I wanted to explain this. Is this on a walking trail inside? I'm going to copy this just in case it errors out again. I don't know about y'all, but we've been getting a lot of this lately. Yep, something went wrong. So let's regenerate. If it does it again, then I'll refresh. But as you can see, you have to go step by step. And this is what my process looks like. I know that Cece and I, while we do a lot of things that might be similar, we do tackle things different, and that's okay. We are still questioning the AI. We are still going through the process of building our chapter summaries. From there, we would build our beats. So, this is a process that I use, and it works for me. Now, you may find that some elements of what I do work with your process, but what I ask you to do is always ask the LM some questions. It looks like we might be having issues with, and that is something that you will often run into. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to get your story done, but it does mean that sometimes it forces you to have to take maybe a well needed break and then come back to your story. This is always a good time to take it offline and begin to ask questions about your story, maybe organizing your story thoughts so that you can come back to it when the LLMs are up and moving so that you can ask those questions again.
How hard would it be to transfer this to Claude and take it up there?
I would
Monumental, because it's all scattered in here.
I would have to go and extract some of the specific details of my story. I could probably grab my extended synopsis. I could grab some of my backstory, and I could grab the extended synopsis, and I could take it to Claude, and then I could play with it. But you run the risk if you do not have all of your backstory on all of your characters loaded up, then Claude will not know that. And then you may end up creating new backstories for them while you are working in the LLM. But I'm wondering,
Yeah.
Mira, could you take your maybe to Bing or Bard that knows about current situations? If that's all you want to know.
definitely. Now, I can remember walking when I visited one of my sons, I can remember walking in Central Park, and I remember some of the trails that we walked through. And so that was more of my thought when I was walking through Central Park. And that's one of the things that I was interested in having the LLM replicate. But because I don't live in New York, I wanted to know exactly what's going on with these alleyways.
I think Claude can answer that, but how about if can you hit refresh and see what happens?
I just did that.
Is it generating or?
Yeah, I know that he drove through Central Park in one of the Die Hard movies, but there's a certain area within the park that I was wanting her to walk through. So I'll need to do more research. I wanted to, it was Williams something. I'll have to look it up. But I wanted it to be more of an area that has walking trails rather than where traffic is driving through. Cece? Could you go out and do a down detector to see if chat or if open AI is down?
Say that again. Do you want me to look on my email?
Can you bring up a browser window and look up if the open AI site is down? Angie just, oh, okay. It's not showing anything. Angie?
I don't see any issues. I see no issues.
Yeah, the last one was right there on the 13th.
Yeah, but it says it's resolved,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
It does. I just restarted. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. In this instance, if we had, and it's early in the process to have done it, or maybe not, we had taken every little bit piece by piece and put it in a file, in a document, we would copy the entire thing or simply just use the upload feature on Claude and start there. Just a thought. That would be a huge task at this point.
So I would have to go in and take all of these specific areas of my story and transfer them over. So I could do that. I could go in and start copying some of these items. I could load up to 10 documents inside of Claude. So I could go over and actually play with that. We are at what, an hour and 37 minutes?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So what I might do is conclude today, but I will go ahead and share the link here, and maybe I will release a second part to this to show additional information on fleshing this out. That way you can review it on a two-part for this specific session. That way we can do it when GPT-4 is up.
Yeah, we'll just put it in the YouTube.
Yeah. So, are there any questions about fleshing content out and going in to flesh out your synopsis? If you have a question, you can unmute.
Oh, Nina says, can you show your synopsis now?
Go up
And she's wondering how detailed it looks now.
the synopsis. Let's go look at it. Give me just a minute to go back to it. It is a big wall of text. So, here is this right here is my synopsis. So, it's letting us know that right here, it is giving me something other than New York, unless that is in New York. She's listening to fantastic tales of her mother. So I would need to research this. I already know that she is in New York. She was born there. I know that things are happening in Central Park. So I know that she grew up listening to these tales. She's inquisitive. Her mother has passed down these stories. Her mother is deceased. That I know. She turns 25. She inherits the old locket. It has a hidden map of a forest in it, and the forest is actually the map itself. And it warms up when during heightened emotional states or when she's in the park. She crosses paths with her love interest, who is a guardian spirit assigned to watch over the town's nexus point. The two are drawn together. It is giving me some details. I do not have it broken up into acts. Remember, when I was creating my synopsis, Nina, I actually asked it to create it with the Snyder beat sheet in mind. So it has all of the Snyder beat sheet elements. If this was running correctly, if ChatGPT 4 was running, I could actually take this synopsis right here and I could ask it to go in and break it up into the Snyder beat sheet, or I could ask it to show me the 3 different acts within this synopsis, and I could flesh it out even further from there. I tend to like to see a synopsis that is written out in this format because it allows me to see the content. No, I do not designate what happens in the acts this way. I am strictly looking at it as the story itself, and I will go in and ask with the different parts. I've already made sure that I know what my inciting incident is. I know what the save the cat moment is. When I go further into fleshing out my story beats, that is when I am designating that the system gives me that save the cat moment. I'm designating when the debate happens, when the dark night of the soul happens. So all of that is being done in step number 6. And I'm incorporating it into my beats. It is showing that she goes deeper into the mystery. She crosses paths with the guardian. She feels that there's something going on. We know that our love interest has echoing memories of his past human lover, and that we know that it's forbidden for them to have a relationship, Laura and the love interest. And we know that Benedict Gray is coming up. We know that is the mentor of the love interest. We have information and backstory on him. We know that his untimely death many years ago is what put him into that guardian spirit role. We know that Anna is a cafe owner. We know that there's more than meets the eye there. We know what her backstory is. She's a descendant from the Salem witches. We all know that. We know that Voss and Finn oppose our protagonist and love interest. We know that Finn is a guardian spirit who fell from grace. We know, so we have all these key things happening in our synopsis. Now, is this as detailed as I need it? Actually, for me as a writer, it's as detailed as I need it because all I need is an overview right now. But when I go into my summary, as you saw, I am drilling down into it. I'm asking questions. I'll do the same thing whenever I get to the chapter beats for my actual story itself when we set it up to either be either 12, 14, or 16 beats for that story. This is really all I need in my synopsis. And is this the whole story? No, there's more to this story than what's in the synopsis. You can't put every detail in the synopsis. Some of that you will have to, as a writer, wrap that into your overall primary beats and then your story beats. Are there any other questions?
Nothing in chat. And I just dropped prompts again in Microsoft Word and PDF for anybody that needed them and didn't get them earlier.
Okay. So keep in mind that with that information and all this, if I were to try to take it to Claude right now, it would miss all of this pertinent information. Here, let's do something. Do you see how much of your creation do you like to do and your plotting and planning? How much of that do you like to do on the back end offline? And how much of it do you do with an AI?
At this stage, I do most of it with the AI, but it involves a lot of manipulating and arguing and pressing the point home of what I want it to do. But there are times when I will add something in there, but I hate doing that. And the reason that I hate doing that is because sometimes I like to generate prose within the LLM that I've created the whole project in, like in chat. So switching something around without making the LLM aware of it puts it at a disadvantage to give me what I want. If that, I hope that sounds right.
So now I just copied everything in here, and I can tell you right now, copying it, it came out to be 42 pages. It is exactly 18,936 words. That is how much information has gone back and forth while I have been playing around with this tool. Now, I have never done this, so let's see if it will take the whole thing. Let's just test it.
And by the way, guys, don't forget when we give you the chat link, that will have the prompts in it.
And that was another reason why I was trying not to go outside of ChatGPT 4 because I wanted y'all to have access to see that because I have no way of sharing Claude with y'all.
Yeah, it's not user friendly in that regard.
Now, I may have to redirect it because I did not change any of my X's here and I didn't give it my chapter. It'll say 5 beats, but I did not go any further. And it is keeping it with a 25 chapter outline for the urban fantasy romance. I don't know if y'all are able to see this, but it's letting us know where it's going. Now, it is doing a repeat of the information that I have already asked it. Because remember, I took the whole conversation in GPT-4. I copied it from beginning to end. I didn't take anything out. It had everything. And that's what it's doing. So it's given me, this is chapter 3, and this is chapter 4, and then it stopped here. Now, to continue, I would have to prompt it to give me additional information. Now, all of my story stuff is in here, and I could flesh it out over here on Claude. The only problem with me fleshing it out here is that I cannot share this information with you if I can share my link on GPT-4, but I can't do that on Claude. And, oh, okay. Thank you. Lynn just let us know that the OpenAI for ChatGPT 4 and the paid subscriptions are down right now. So that's one of the reasons why it did not work. Now, again, you can see that my format worked. And even though I did not tell it in my prompt what I wanted, remember, Claude actually looked at all of the transactions and all of the conversations that I had with chat, which part of that conversation had that I wanted 25 chapters. I wanted 6, but it left it with 5. So that it did not pick up on, that it did pull out of the actual prompt that I provided. But as you can see, it gave me the character was, it gave me the day and time, it gave me my characters, it also gave me the setting, and it gave me the voice, and all of that is exactly the same. The only difference is that it gave me different information here. Remember whenever I asked it what was the plan? They're going to attend a secretive magic masquerade event in Central Park. That's cool. I'm going to want to know more about that. And if number 3, it says there's a profound connection to Central Park tied to her memories of her mother. What kind of memories? I would still prod the AI and I would I'd give her a memory. Maybe it's a memory of her mother taking her to the park and maybe they're finding ladybugs or looking at dragonflies or whatever the case may be. I would give it a memory to dig into. And again, Anna can't be sensing anything, but I could state that Anna Martinez stops Laura and begins to question her about her locket. So that I can do because that's an action. And maybe whenever Anna approaches, maybe I can have Laura's locket growing warmer the more she's talking to Anna. But I still want to know about that hidden alley because I'm not picturing an alley in my head. So I would need to dig deeper into that, maybe go on the internet and look at images and see exactly what those look like. Again, I'm not a resident of New York and I would need to do some research there. Chapter 2, Monday, 11 a.m. Let's see, it was Monday, 10 a.m. in chapter 1. It is now 11 the same Monday, and now we are in the love interests. And these are the individuals under the character list that are in there with this specific chapter. And it's showing us that he is in the mystical forest at the edge of Central Park. It's showing me the character voice, the tone, and I do have the beats that I would need to go through and make sure that I understood what's happening there. Again, I would do that for every single beat. Now, I could either run every single one of my chapter summaries, or I could start asking questions about them. I don't want to do a lot of work in Claude because I want to do all my work in GPT-4 when it's up. Does anybody have any questions?
Nothing in chat.
Okay. Guys, we are almost hitting a 2-hour mark for this, which was, I have no concept of time, CC. But if there are no other questions today, I definitely will start working on ensuring that these videos go out. Yesterday should go out today. And the one that we just recorded just now, I'll try and get it out today, but more than likely it will go out tomorrow. I will go ahead and share the link to ChatGPT-4 when it is up. I will share that link with you, but let me know, are y'all interested in seeing us go through and flesh out all of the information on our summaries? Do you want us to do a second segment to that? Or would you just rather have the link?
Who's going to say no to that? They've already said yes, girl. Go on. Go on with your bad self.
Then we can go ahead and, well, Cece and I will set something up. I will rope her in.
Well, she said Cece, didn't she? Now look at what y'all did to me.
Maybe, you know what would be interesting? Maybe I'll do some of the chapter summaries. And then I think it would be cool to turn this over to Cece. I can give her control of my screen. Ooh, Cece, I can just give you complete control and you can take over my screen, and then you can show the viewers how your process looks. And that way we can demo the two different processes. What do you think?
So by putting this out in public, you think you're going to trap me that way, huh? I see how you roll. I see exactly how you roll. No, we're not going to play that game, young lady. But we will do this again. I'm thinking we're gonna see if we can tackle Miss Lynn and bring her in for it too. And you know what? Here's what else we can do. We'll put a link in the Discord that we're doing it so that we can make it live for y'all as well if y'all want to join in, or you can just see the video when it comes out.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
We'll figure out a time. We'll get it going. Dion said she's going to be there with bells on.
I like that. That's good. I really want to thank y'all for joining in and staying with us over the past 2 hours. Your viewership means a whole lot to us. And definitely, if there's something that you want us to do or you would like to see us model, please don't hesitate to ask. And at some point, to Cece's information that she just stated, we're definitely going to pull Lynn in because I would like for her to play with Rexy and maybe show that on the channel as well. And if you are in Discord, in our AI Writer Connection Discord, don't be bashful. You will find WordSpinner there, you will find me, and you will find Lynn there. Another good resource there would.
Now who's being thrown under the bus?
It's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lynn. I figured I would give what I got.
Oh, yeah, share, I know.
And I know Nicole's not on, and Nicole is another great source of information. So if you find us inside of the AI Writer Connection Discord and you have questions, don't be bashful, just ask away. So if there are no other questions, then I'm going to conclude today, but I'm going to turn that over to Miss Cece.
All right. And we're going to say thank you for joining us. And don't forget to subscribe and to ring the bell to be notified of new releases. Just like that.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon.
Bye now. Y'all come back now. You like the Beverly Hillbillies.
Come back now, you hear?